Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we're talking about the wrap-up of our 2.5-year campaign of Curse of Strahd. Welcome to True Strike.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the show.
Howdy.
We have finally finished our Curse of Strahd campaign. It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were supposed to finish it a couple weeks before Gen Con. How'd that work out?
Yeah. Well, originally, we were supposed to wrap it up in like a year.
Oh, yeah.
How did that work out?
Yeah, that didn't work out at all. But you guys know how scheduling goes for
scheduling and
TTRPGs.
When you expect one session to be one session that becomes 3 sessions.
Yeah. We had some pretty elongated fights, I think, actually, were a couple ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where we had like multiple session fights.
I mean, our last session was what? 9 hours?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I don't really remember how long it was.
Yeah, I think that was the final tally, including a small break for lunch.
Yeah.
Which was really short, like 15 minutes. We clocked around like 9 hours.
Yeah.
And
that's not bad.
80% of that was a fight.
Was a fight, yeah. Not bad at all. I expected it to be like even longer than it was.
It probably could have been.
I told you that, yeah. Like when we went into this, because we normally, behind the screen, we normally play our games after work. So we get off work and then we start playing anytime around like 6:30, 7 o'clock or so. And we usually only go until like 10 o'clock, sometimes a little bit later. So they're smaller sessions. But this last session, we decided we were going to play the entire day. So we tried to start as early as we could. Spoiler alert, I was very late.
He wasn't that late.
We started like an hour later than we intended to. And I expected it to go all the way until 10 o'clock at night. And we actually wrapped up earlier than that. So I was surprised.
Yeah.
First thing to say here, before we go any further, if you are averse to spoilers of Curse of Strahd, avert your eyes and or ears.
Yes, we will be talking about how the campaign went and ended and all kinds of things. If you plan on running this game, you can stick around. If you plan on playing in this game, don't stick around.
Yeah, I wouldn't stick around because I don't know if we're going to touch on, well, we're not going to touch on everything because we obviously don't do everything, totally. But we are going to talk about things that are obviously spoilerish in nature.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, especially about a game like Curse of Strahd. Your game may go entirely differently than our game, but doesn't mean it, the crossovers here and there and everything else. Second off, hi, if you're listening to this right now, that means the giveaway that we did for the last 2 weeks has wrapped up. We're recording this not a full week, but almost a week before the giveaway ends. So we don't actually know who won yet. Future Us knows.
Yeah.
And we'll be contacting the winner via email. So if you entered the giveaway that we ran for the last 2 weeks, make sure you check your email. If you see something from us, it's probably actually us. We'll attach like a video in there or something to let you know that it's actually us. But yeah, just a heads up. Check your emails.
Yep. So, I guess, we're not going to go through beat by beat of everything we've done in Curse of Strahd.
If you've been following the channel for a while, we have done recaps here and there.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit here and there. It was an interesting game because it spanned different players, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that would be my first question to you is, what was that like having to deal with people leaving the table and other people replacing them at the table? Because we not only had people changing characters, which happened like multiple times, which is a whole different subject on its own, but we actually had player change. And that was just because somebody didn't have the time commitment to do it any longer. And we had somebody that did, and they kind of swippy swapped.
There was definitely some swippy swapping. So what he's referencing there is one of our players played a cleric that switched to one character for like a session and then to another one like a fighter for like maybe 5 sessions.
Yeah.
And switch back to the cleric. Sessions?
It felt like it was way less than that.
It was not super long, but it was long enough to get back to.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we had another player, Richard, who switched from a bard to the witch playtest, Worlds Beyond Numbers witch playtest. And that was fun. None of these characters, well, we'll get to it. I'll say none of these characters died. One was ejected into freaking space or whatever. That was the one episode one. But
Space Barovia.
Our other player that couldn't make it Their barbarian made it through the whole campaign.
Yeah.
The player just switched a couple of times. Anytime they couldn't make it, Richard would run their character for them, and then it just got to the point where they weren't able to commit, and we had someone else who wanted to join the games. So we gave them the option of you could either take over that character, and if so, here's their backstory. The original player was totally fine with just passing it on. They weren't going to be able to come back to them anyway. Or just making someone new, and then we would write them out right in the new character. And they decided just to take over the barbarian, Moses, and did so. What was interesting is whoever was portraying this character changed the personality of this character. So where they ended up versus where they begin, shocker, was vastly different than I originally anticipated, which is fine. That's tabletop in general sometimes. I mean, how many times have you made a character?
Evolution is what that is.
Yeah, how many times have you made a character that after, 50 sessions or whatever, it's just completely different person than you thought they were going to be? That happened, multiplicative with it being an entirely different human running them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was an interesting one. Luckily, he picked up the game very quickly.
Yeah.
He'd never played with us before. Picked it up very quickly.
New to our table.
And just ran with it. And it was totally fine. Fun character. Never had this player miss a game. They were always here on time and everything. And so, it was fun.
Yeah, I think he's the only person other than you, obviously. And I don't think you guys ever played without me. That actually missed the game.
No, if you couldn't make it, then one of our other players that you could ride to could make it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But so that being said, what was that like as a game master having so many switch ups to deal with? Was it difficult to write around a whole person changing at the table, let alone characters changing at the table a lot?
The player changing didn't involve much like rewriting or anything. Most of the way we run games, or at least I run games, is a lot of just off the dome anyway. So it changing, my long-term projections of how like a character might evolve over time, that was intriguing. Like there's definitely aspects of that character I didn't expect them to lean into the way they did, which is totally fine. I had no issue with that happening. The players switching characters, I think, was more abrupt to my like long-term goals, especially with us starting off the campaign with a session 0 of like seeding like relationships.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then relatively quickly compared to the length of the campaign, those kind of being ripped away, and then trying to seed in new characters and then them kind of just get to meet all these people and like, now become a new group of friends was interesting, because I think at the end of the game, if we just focus in on the easiest one to speak of right now, because you were here in the room, we had your original character Trist, and then your second character Lux. Trist had, in story, months of relationship built in and ties to these other characters, and by the end of the campaign, I don't think Lux had that emotional attachment with the other characters like Trist did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strange almost, because Trist had significantly less playtime.
Yeah.
But because of us establishing like bonds and, issues like that, it just felt interesting. Like, and I don't know, how do you feel like as far as Lux, like who were you connected to in the party and who could you have just...
It's interesting because like it actually, like I, as a player in it, not just my character, but the other characters and everything like that, it did not feel unnatural with the character switches that happened.
Yeah.
So like,
I think Triss left very organically.
The way that Triss left, the way that my next character Lux was introduced was very organically, and it seemed to flow really well. And I didn't feel like off put by it at all. Same thing with our cleric leaving and then, being replaced with another character.
That one had big story implications.
Another character. Yeah. So there was the cleric leaving the party for a little while, 2 intermediate characters happening, right? That were just kind of like there, right? That had their own stories almost. Well, except for the little guy
And that's because the day after he decided he wanted to play them, he decided he wanted to play the fighter instead.
Yeah, the fighter instead. So one character was quick, but it didn't feel out of place. Like it felt fun, and it was like interesting how it was integrated in the story. But it didn't feel out of place when that character was removed from the story again. Right. Same thing with the final character before the cleric's return back to the party. Everything felt really well, I think. It is interesting though, because you ask about the questions of relationships between the characters, and with the session 0, the Trist originally, so our original group was Hootsifer, Trist, Moses, and Norik. And in that group, that core group, basically Hootsifer and Trist were very against each other, like constantly butting heads.
Yeah.
And Trist was closest with Moses and Norik. And it is interesting that by the end of the game, Lux was a completely different side of the coin.
Yeah.
Lux was closest with Hootsifer in the entire party, and was more butting heads and at opposition with Norik and Moses, because Hootsifer came back, and Lux had a different experience with Hootsifer because Lux was a different person too. True. So values and choices that Lux made lined up more, I think, with what Hootsifer was doing.
I think it's interesting too there because over the course of the campaign, Norik and Moses both started leaning more towards like the dark and evil path of things, and would make very questionable decisions to even to a morally gray person, where Hootsifer at least tried, I think, to do the more positive thing a lot of the times. And I know Luck started off a little more bright and cheery and ended up a little more dark and gray towards the middle and the end, especially. Where I know out of game, Hootsifer's player would talk, would recap things and talk to me about it and be like, I don't know what I would do without Lux, because they're my rock, and I could not survive in this party with just the other two. So I absolutely thought that was interesting.
Which is funny to me because, like I said, Triss, my original character, and Hootsifer were very much at odds.
Yes,
extremely at odds. And one of the final parting gifts of Trist was something to try and negatively affect Hootsifer.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Trist left the party, I did forgery work to basically kind of make it look like Hootsifer was trying to subvert other people's claim to property by forging the deed to the windmill to be his windmill, so that it could basically cause a problem down the line with people trying to see that he was trying to take it, essentially. So I was basically just trying to start problems for Hootsifer as Trist. And I went in as a blank slate with Lux to meet the new party members and figure out where that character was going to go. And it just kind of organically lined up with Hootsifer being the one that most aligned with Lux's values. So it was interesting for me to have two characters that were different sides of the story, basically.
Yeah, and even when Lux met the party, Hootsifer wasn't there at the moment.
Yes, no.
It was his other character, Theodore, the fighter. So, yeah, we were getting to know everybody. I felt like at first, especially once you initially joined, Lux really was the only good aligned character in the group for a solid 5, 6, 7 sessions, until Hootsifer came in and it was almost like oh, you're not crazy.
Yeah. It is interesting though, when you say good aligned versus bad aligned. I don't know anything about Curse of Strahd. So I haven't read anything about Curse of Strahd. I didn't read anything prior to Curse of Strahd. So all I know is the game that we played.
Yeah.
So I know nothing behind the scenes. So I do have some questions about the game in general.
Sure.
That I'd like to know. And kind of the first one would be...
did you write them down?
Yeah, I did. I have some notes over here because these are questions that I had. Okay. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget any of them.
Oh, geez. I was not prepared.
As a character, Lux started off as kind of good, but leaning kind of neutral, right? And I didn't intend for it to go this way, but the land that we were in and the decisions that we had to make started to err on morally like questionable, right? So throughout the course of the campaign, if you've for our talking about it, if you've listened to us, I've talked about playtesting the witch class. One of the things in the witch class is covens that you pick, which are almost like subclasses. There's one of them that you cannot pick. It's one that just happens to you, and that's called the wicked. And that is if you are making decisions that are selfish or could be deemed selfish, then you begin to turn wicked. And at which point you start to replace spells and abilities with more nefarious spells and abilities, and you lose other witch abilities. So basically you become a different type of witch. And as the campaign progressed with Lux, it started to get dark, and we started to do things that were morally gray. And I started having to make decisions or making decisions, and after making them, started to think about those decisions and how they were kind of negative. Sure. And then we decided, okay, well, anytime that something negative happens, then we take that one step closer to wicked, basically. And the way that works is you replace one spell, and if you replace up to 4 spells, then you become the new subclass. Long story short, we got there over the course of a couple of weeks, ended up becoming, this new subclass. And it's interesting because I'd never planned for that to be. And I feel by the end, I was back on the path for good, like heading back towards leaving that subclass of being wicked. Whether or not I get there is, who knows, but I feel like I was on the path to becoming good again. And I have to wonder, is that by design for Curse of Strahd? Is this module geared towards making players make hard decisions and sometimes just having to make bad decisions?
I do think the first time that really comes up, right? So you start off the game, you kind of introduce people to the world, and you move them, through the environment, and they get to Barovia and they see how things are kind of bad. We decided to use the Death House. I really wanted to use that, even though it's kind of like a meat grinder dungeon almost. There's cool like flavor and story to be had.
Fun.
So I wanted a Death House for sure. So we did that.
Was super fun.
And I kind of thought of that as like a mechanics tutorial and a combat tutorial, and then you get a little bit of social outside of that. And then by the time you get to Vallaki, that's where the game really opens up as far as let's overwhelm your players. And we didn't even do all the possibilities. There were many options in Vallaki that we could have done that we didn't get to. So you guys were overwhelmed with a actual moving timetable with 5 or 6 different quests that all had to be completed by the same day, tomorrow, like very like close time, right? And in a lot of campaigns, or if you think of video game logic or anything like that, you can just knock off quest and nothing bad happens. It's fine, You're just like, oh, I know I gotta go, save the kingdom, but there's a sword in here I heard about, and I want to go get it and explore the cave. And in Curse of Strahd, there are choices to be had because you cannot do everything in the time allotted. And if you save one group of people, you leave another for dead, right? You can only do so much. And if you guys had decided to find the bones of St. Andrew, right, and you cleanse them and you brought them back to the church and everything else like that, you could have saved all those people. But then you may have left the druid stuff to go on, and that tree would have woken up and went down and destroyed went up and destroyed Kresk
instead.
That would have just been demolished by the druids in this tree. And now that whole city would have been wiped out because you guys didn't take care of that, and the Wizard of Wines and the whole Mardikovs could have just been completely taken out. And you made choices and you made alignments and you let some people down, but you helped some others and had campaign long friends in the Mardikovs and stuff like that. I love the idea that you as a player could play this campaign multiple times and have entirely different stories.
Yeah.
But as far as, is it designed to kind of make your characters go down that dark path. I do think it kind of beats you over the head a little bit with this is a dark place. Like it's not only like a spooky vibes. There's ghosts and werewolves and vampires. It's sad. There's sad people. There's like husk of humans that don't have souls. There's just a day-to-day people living not knowing if they're going to survive the night. And you are living there and you're like doing your best to help everyone and you can't. And if you don't have just like a kind of goofy personality that is like always up and positive and don't worry guys, we're going to make it through this and beat the vampires. If you're like, all right, well, we help these people. Oh, but this guy just made really good friends with his dead now because it's going to wear you down. And I think it kind of does.
Yeah, I mean, no, and it did. I definitely feel like we made like the wrong decisions a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you think you made the wrong decision?
I think the first like really big misstep that we made was basically facilitating the death of the leadership in Vallaki.
I did think that was an interesting one. You were Lux instrumental.
That was like one of the first things that I did where after I did it, I was all like, that was bad. Like I'm a bad person. That was a bad choice. We witnessed people basically being like taken hostage because the city was being overthrown.
Yeah.
And the burgomasters or whatever, was that what they called for that city in particular?
Yeah, that's typically like
mayors, basically.
Yeah.
I guess we could have chosen to try and stop that and
totally
help them,
100%.
Right? And we didn't. And at the time,
you could have pushed for them to be imprisoned.
Yeah. So at the time,
options.
I thought they were the bad people, right?
Sure.
And we didn't push for imprisonment. We basically, like I said, facilitated making the crowd even angrier.
Well, they do it. They have a lot of restrictions in place. It's a very sad town.
Yeah.
They're trying to like,
sad.
They're having all these festivals and trying to get people to like be positive and, but obviously.
Yeah, but also very overpowering and controlling almost to the point where like and threatening us, like threatening our lives. And I was like, okay, these people don't seem like good people.
Well, you're strangers to a very locked down area.
And we're very strangers to a lockdown area.
Not allowed to say Strahd's name, which you later find out is for a reason.
Yeah, which is for a reason. I got that. I don't know. They didn't strike me as good people, so I didn't feel bad in the moment.
No, of course.
Basically facilitating their entire downfall, like their death and the overthrow of the entire city. But then basically the city being opened up to Strahd after that.
Where he was not before.
When it wasn't before, I was all like, oh, wow. Are we the bad guys? Because that was a bad guy thing. Like we did a very bad guy thing there, and I kind of spearheaded it almost. And that was one of the first decisions that I made, where I was all like, "Ooh, this isn't good. This is not good player choices for a good to neutral character."
Sure,
that was an evil choice. Probably the second evil thing that I kind of spearheaded was betraying the Mardikovs. Which I'm sure a lot of players don't do that. It didn't even cross my mind to have sensible conversation with Mardikovs.
To just ask for their gem.
To just ask for something as important to their family as their gem. No, my first original thing was all like, well, we just got to steal it. We just have to steal it. And that went downhill so fast. Yeah. So fast. And so, yeah, like those two things, I feel like we definitely made the wrong choice, air quotes.
It was funny, too, because that was a session, one of the few sessions that our Claire, Hootzifer's player missed. So he wasn't here to be the voice of reason. And he came back and was like, why didn't we just ask him for it?
Yeah, and I was like, well, it sounds good when you say it like that.
Yeah, but you weren't here to say it, were you?
I text him at one point. I think I may have texted him to ask him about it. Like, I was very vague with the question, though.
Oh, okay.
Like, what would you do in this kind of a situation? And his answer, I just ran with it and didn't give him any context at all.
Well, I mean,
so
he should have been here.
But yeah, no, that was definitely a morally gray choice that it took some work to wheel back to get the Mardikovs to trust us again.
Right.
Like that was an interesting one. So yeah, those are kind of like two glaring examples of ways that I felt like the world pushed me personally. I'm sure there was other people had stuff to say too.
I mean, look at Moses,
it
right?
pushed me personally. Oh yeah, Moses making choices to just keep eating pies.
Yeah.
After finding out what pies are made out of.
Yeah.
Pies are Soylent Green. And
he likes the benefit.
And he likes the benefit of pies, and he's okay with eating pies. And yeah, it's like I said, it was like we were making morally great decisions all over the place. Like Hootzifer's original thing that Trist was like super against was just leaving to go see Strahd in the castle.
Yeah,
just like I'm going to the castle, and I'm gonna go chill with Strahd and talk to him because he seems like a pretty cool guy. He doesn't seem like he's a bad guy at all, so I'm gonna go talk to him. And then we didn't see him again for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was all like, at that point, I was like, oh yeah, he evil.
Well, I was going to say, at that point, did you guys, as the players, because I obviously, that player talked to me outside of the game and was like, hey, I really do think Hootzifer would go talk to, he's the Lord of the Land. I'm literally just looking for information and stuff, and he might be able to help me out with that. I also have another character I'll play in the meantime and stuff, like how, what can we do about this? Did you guys think he was dead? Or did you think he was just like a vampire now? Or
I thought that he was probably converted.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that he was probably going to be a bad guy. Like that was a inherently kind of like evil choice.
Sure.
And I thought that, okay, well, if he comes back, he's coming back as an NPC who's going to fight us, is what I had assumed at that point.
Instead, his alternate character, the fighter, had that happen.
Yeah, had that happen instead. So it did happen, just not the way that I thought it was going to happen.
Instead, your buddy was Hootzifer.
Yeah, no. So my next question here is an interesting one because we did a lot of stuff. So we did the Death House, we did the Mardikovs, we did the tree, right? We ended up doing Baba Lasagna. We did, what else did we do? We did the windmill with the hags.
Yeah.
We met with the Vistani, which is actually where my original character Trist ended up staying. Because as I was playing my character and we met the Vistani, I was like, man, Trist feels kind of at home,
right,
with the Vistani.
This feels like a good spot to leave
and
them.
It feels like a kinship here, and like doesn't like is more interested in them as a people than
just exploring
Barovia and trying to leave. Like it was more like Trist felt like the Vistani was where they belonged. And that's kind of when I talked to you about it. And I was like, I mean, this feels like where Trist would kind of just go. Right.
Sure.
And at that point, like, what do
it did new
character
sense.
Yeah. So that's where Trist did. So we met the Vistani and everything like that, and then eventually we went to the Amber Temple. We did a bunch of stuff with weird gods there. We eventually went to Argynvost Hold.
Yep.
To do all that stuff.
The Revenant,
the Revenants,
the
dragons,
Den,
the werewolf den,
the Abbey,
Mordenkainen.
Yep.
We met him, and then eventually back to the castle. Well, in between there, we also went to dinner, which was great.
Dinner was one of my favorite parts of the entire game.
I thought Lux was going to die at dinner.
Oh, you were pushing.
I thought Lux was going to die at dinner because at that point she like had just zero patience with Strahd in general, and was being really pushy, probably overconfident.
Yeah,
and I did pass some good checks. I did. I had some good rolls. I had some really good rolls that would probably saved me. But I thought Lux was going to die during the dinner, just because I was being mean.
Dinner was interesting too, because that Strahd already knew he already just did a power play with the St. Angel's Feast and stuff like that, and he invites you all into his home because there's nothing you could do to hurt him. He is this like unkillable vampire lord. You guys are level 5.
Yeah.
and it's this fun play of you guys ignored his invitation one night. So because of that, he murders all the people in a church.
Yeah.
And then he sends out another invitation and he's like, you should come this time.
Yeah.
And you guys are like, okay.
Okay, fine. We get the message.
We get it. And then he just has a dinner for you, of which here in real life at the table, we had food.
Yeah, we had food. We had dinner.
And
we did a dinner, which was great.
We just had a very social game where we got to just talk in character.
It was interesting because we were all just eating while we were playing.
Yeah.
So it was like we were actually at dinner. Like we didn't pause the game and eat dinner.
Right, no,
we just had dinner on the table in front of us, and then we played socially.
It was part of the session.
Ate food. Yeah, it was very cool. It was very neat. I suggest any of you, and you do Strahd's dinner. It was fun.
Yes.
So yeah, we did the dinner. We went to the castle. We fought Strahd. We killed Strahd. So
not in that order.
Not in that order. All of that.
Many sessions between.
I guess my first question there was that all module, or was that anything that you inserted into the module?
There is a lot of insert, right? So a lot of the Morning Canaan stuff is insert.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the you looking for the crystals and stuff is insert. A lot of if anyone's run this game, a lot of GMs have probably used the help of r/Curse of Strahd.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much information on there between Curse of Strahd Reloaded and stuff like that. There's a lot of information to pull, and you can pick and choose what everybody else has already thrown in there, and then to mix in your own stuff, and kind of just make this game, mold it to be exactly what you want it to be. There's definitely been times where I had grander plans for things and then had to scale back. When one of our players, was already talking about the game running too long, so I already sped up some things.
Yeah,
there's some areas you guys never went to. I mean, like we've got a map behind you, Lake Zarovich. You guys never went to that lake.
Yeah, I always wanted to go back and go swimming in there.
Yeah, you never did.
Yeah,
if you did, there would have been you would have walked on a pier. You would have seen someone out there on like a small boat. And then they would see a fisherman who had a burlap sack that was moving, and he would have thrown it in the lake. And then you guys would have had a skill challenge if you wanted to try to save whoever he was throwing in the lake.
I totally could have saved them too.
There would have been a skill challenge to go get them. If you got them, it would have been a seer, like a child who has omnipresence, who can see the future and all this other stuff. And a whole separate quest where you find some dusk elves. And it's the area where Rahadin cut the ears off of all the male dusk elves that were there, and there's no females, and it's been this whole other thing, and it never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. We never got there.
And that's one example. I had a whole quest line revolving around a false Hydra that you guys never got to, and it's so funny. Because I could run this game right now and have a whole different
experience.
Yep.
So you mean to tell me that the gems were not part of the module?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that felt like it was part of the land.
It feels like it really ties a lot of stuff together. I agree.
Yeah, I know the gems. At first, I was like, "Wow, these gems are awfully convenient for Lux's storyline, and not only that, but for weakening Strahd too."
Yeah.
But it felt like a very natural thing, and that's why I was all I'm just curious as to what in this,
Yeah, no, gems are inserted.
Was inserted in what was part of the module.
I like the idea of the gems because you buff up Strahd.
Yeah.
And you give him, it makes it even harder to fight him without kind of questing these things. But you also having the wedding invitation go out around the same time as you guys finding out about the gems was very intentional, because then it limited how many gems you would be able to find and destroy.
Yeah.
So by giving you guys the option of which, buff essentially he had or ability you would like to destroy, gave you guys player choice, knowing that most likely there would be one that you would not find.
We wouldn't be able to find.
Right.
Yeah. No.
But you could. You totally could have.
We could have, I guess.
Bum rushed into the castle, snuck in, tried to do, you could have gotten it for sure. But then there's choices. There's the choice of Barovia at the end that was being attacked by zombies.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought for sure you guys were just going to leave them all for dead. And you had one player who was
that
like,
was the
I'm going to go help them.
That worried me the most because we were at a pivotal point in the game where we didn't have time to do both things. And we, as a group, like at the table, we're all like, okay, well, we have to decide what's most important. And is it going and protecting a town of, like a couple hundred people, maybe 100 people, maybe, or do we take the time to weaken Strahd to end this forever? And most of the party was weaken Strahd because, yes, we could possibly save people, but if we can't save everyone, it's that whole train tracks thing.
Yeah.
And one party member was all like, I can do this alone.
You're like, I'm going regardless.
I can save that town by myself. I'm going and I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see you guys again. Maybe I won't.
Yeah.
And we were all like, well, that's bad. Feels bad, but we can't leave this. We have to do this.
Yeah.
And it worked out. In the end,
it totally did.
It totally worked out in the end.
By luck of the dice.
And I was shocked.
Me too.
To see him walk back from that.
Because I had countdowns. If you played Daggerheart, you know about countdowns. I had countdowns in motion. Yeah, I know it's D&D, but countdowns are fun. I had all this stuff going on. I had like thresholds of health essentially for like the town that like key NPCs would be killed off. We were like one away. I had the other players that decided to stand by idly, like roll a d4, and they all kept rolling like ones. So like one more number and key NPC would have been killed off, but no, luck of the dice.
Luck of the dice.
Everything was fine, and they're the hero of Barovia.
I was shocked.
Statue in their honor.
The hero of Barovia, yeah, which was killing one of our other characters.
Yeah.
How much praise this character was getting all the time. Like, hey, they are the chosen one. They are the hero of Barovia. There's going to be statues.
A lot of it was like stolen valor. And this time it was 100% deserved.
It was funny because this character, Moses, the one that went and saved everybody, constantly would deal the killing blow. Like our cleric would do so much work to like whittle things down, or the whole party would do so much work to whittle things down, and the barbarian would just walk in with one good slice and just lop something's head off, or just kill it outright. It'd be all like, haha, I have saved you all. I have done the thing. I am the hero of Barovia. Yep. And then actually becoming the hero of Barovia was great.
Mm-hmm.
So another weird thing that happened in this game was the release of the new 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook. Oh, God,
yeah.
And the 2025 edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Talk about the release of his soul. No, this is worse.
Monster Hunter's Manual.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter, Monster Book. So yeah, in the middle of our campaign was all of the Hasbro goodness of switching over to a whole new system.
Yeah.
At which point we didn't change the whole game to Daggerheart. Do you regret that?
Not switching to Daggerheart?
Yeah.
No, we were so close to the end anyway. It would have been fun.
We talked about it. We was 100%. Like, I bet I can do this. I bet I can switch this whole game to Daggerheart. But we were like, nah, we're going to stay with D&D. But we're going to switch to the new D&D.
Yeah.
So we did switch over to the new Player's Handbook rules. And I don't know all of what happened behind the screens for that to come to fruition, like as far as like stat blocks and changes, or if you just kind of used what was in there, or if there was resources online that helped you trans over. How did that work?
So if there were resources online, I didn't find them. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was panic as you guys became significantly more powerful. And there were a couple sessions in a row where very difficult encounters were just cakewalks for you guys. I'm sure you noticed.
Yeah. There was there were some encounters which, went easier than we thought.
Yeah.
But some of those were chalked up to witch stuff.
Right. I mean, and yeah, you being playtest too.
Yeah.
So it really, there was a minute there where I was using all the old stuff. And then there was a bit where I started just increasing some stats to kind of compensate. Then the new Monster Manual came out, and I was able to use some of the newer stat blocks. And then by the time we got to the end of the game, you guys weren't as high of level as I wanted you guys to end like 10 to 12. Yeah. You guys were at 10. So by the time we got to the end, I was just using stat blocks out of the book again.
Yeah, you were just using stat blocks out of the book
I wasn't transitioning anymore because I was like, you know what? They are more powerful, but you're also 2 levels under where you could have been. I'm gonna just let it ride.
Yeah,
and that's what I did.
Okay.
And I still think you guys won. Obviously, no one died forever.
No.
It could have been tougher. It could have been harder, but I also didn't feel like you guys just trounced right through everything.
No, I don't think we did. Yeah, the one big combat that we had, which really highlights one of the reasons why we changed the witch, because we were being a little bit cagey when we talked about it, because we didn't do any spoilers for Strahd.
Yeah.
Was when we had to fight a dragon.
That one
on a bridge.
That one you beat me up.
That one was very evident.
The Draco Lich.
That a witch, certain abilities that a witch has, it became very evident how overpowered things can be, so to speak. When it comes to retributive curses, there's one that's called Leaden Shoes, which is a 0 mobility. Basically your movement goes to like 5 feet.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is like, it lasts a long time. Like these curses last a long time.
Yeah.
And in a combat with a dragon that can no longer fly away from you because you Leaden Shoe it, it's just stuck on a bridge.
Specifically has an ability where it can, like, legendary action, like hit you and then fly away.
And it could
no
longer. It can't because it can only move 5 feet.
Yep.
I was
just trapped on the bridge.
Yeah, it really started to show how overpowered the witch's curses were. So it was after that fight that we had a discussion where it's like, man, that felt like really unbalanced. We need to rework witch from what's in the actual, like test materials or play materials that we have at this point to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
So what we did, we ended up increasing the amount of retributive curses that we had, but lessening them and basically making them last a round instead of like 3 minutes. And because some of those are like very long lasting, and when you like locking down somebody's complete movement, I think that would have changed other fights too. Like if we hadn't changed those, the hags would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
The hags were very difficult. That was probably one of the hardest fights I think
I thought the other witch was probably one of the tougher ones.
That was the one that was like the hardest. I did notice that, and I'm trying to remember, and what happened like pretty, not really close, but like closer to the end of the game, I think it felt like things were actually getting pretty difficult for us. And that was kind of wondering if it was because of balance issues, if it was because it wasn't properly balanced right, or if like the materials online, if you were using materials online, if they weren't like, like lining up, or if it was supposed to just be hard. Because it kind of got to a point where it felt like if we were going to get into a fight, no matter what, by the end of it, we were going to be tapped. Right? Like that in order to win that fight, we were going to have to go like all out.
Yeah.
So like I felt like, okay, looking at my stuff as a caster, I was like, okay, so every fight I'm going to tank on spells. Like I'm going to have nothing left after this fight. I'm going to become just a cantrip machine. And kind of become useless for a little while because like curses, you only get so many a day too.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, it started to get to where like every fight we had, we were coming out of that fight like alive, but bruised and bloody and tired. And then all of a sudden looking over and being all like, we don't have the time to sleep. We don't have the time to rest, but we have to rest.
Yeah.
Right. But there's so many things happening. And it became like, okay, well, we have to, like, we either rest or we die.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when it like, that's when I started to wonder, and I was like, well, okay, is this the module or is this a balance issue? Because we're going from 2014 rule sets into 2024.
That was just me being mean. You can look behind the screen right now. There is a printout of different area, what's the word I'm looking for? Lair actions you can add to the witch fight at the end. There's a new stat block, custom stat block for the witch, Babala Saga, that you could use. I did use the house stat block as is.
That house was mean,
and that was like 2014
evil.
Rules. Like
he was like, okay, the house is gonna move. Just roll a die, 1 through 4. Whoever wins is dead. So we'll just go from there. We're like, why? Oh, because it's gonna hit you with a rock, and the rock it's big. It's a lot bigger than you. It's gonna do like 4 D20 worth of damage plus necrotic or whatever. Like it's like if the house touched you, you dead.
This isn't exactly how it went, but it's pretty close.
Oh, and if you're not in the house, you just die because there's gas down there.
That was me being mean.
There's just poison gas on the ground.
That was the layer action
So if you're not in the house, and I'm like, well, yeah, I can fly. And he's like, okay, I knock you back onto the ground. You die. I'm like, okay, no, fine.
The last couple days, it was after Strahd took Irina, and you guys were building up towards the end. You guys had quite a while of easy mode.
Yeah.
And then you guys whooped on Rahadin. And after that, you invoked the full fury of Strahd and the full fury of the land and allies of Strahd. So the game got more difficult.
Yeah.
And then even the last fight, I think that's one of those ones where I was like, you know what, I'm going to run stat blocks as is. I'm not going to start buffing up stat blocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
However, you guys, through story choices and stuff, had recruited lots of allies. If you had not, the fight would have been more difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to your group and, you are talking about like checking off like side quests and stuff. You had done and completed enough of them and like, followed through and, actually put in the work to get those allies. And it's a well-deserved victory on your guys' part that, okay, well, you're going into a fight and you have a paladin on your side. Yeah, but that paladin was probably the most difficult ally to gain because not only did you have to, go fight a Draco Lich and, whatever. To get the skull back, you had to go fight Baba Lysaga.
Yeah.
And then remember to bring the skull back, which gives you all the +1 to your AC and everything else. But that was a long quest line.
Yeah, a long quest line to get to that.
Your paladin or your cleric wanted to see through. He was very adamant he wanted to finish this one. And I think it was worth it. Between having the bonus to your AC and having him as an ally.
Oh no, he was a great ally in the final fight. We ignored some NPCs all entirely.
100%.
Like Blinsky.
There were more you could have had.
We were all like, that guy's weird.
Yeah.
And moving on. And he's like, but my store. We're all like, we got places to be.
Yeah.
We're not going in your store. We don't care.
You would have had someone else there.
Yeah. Or we ignored a lot of NPCs.
Quite easily. Characters that could have been deceased.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I think it's such a cool module and campaign of so many choices mattering. I know we've played in games where it didn't really feel like much of what we did affected things.
Yeah, no, I think that this campaign to me was really interesting mostly because of Strahd himself. And you mentioned this because I think this is one that I did ask you already, which was whether or not Strahd being Vasily was part of the module.
Oh, no.
Or whether or not that was something that you just did.
There's I believe it is mentioned that there is this guy, character named Vasily, and it's a disguise that Strahd takes sometimes.
Yeah.
Him, running a shop in Vallaki and having, trying to romance your character and stuff like that. That was 100% just inserted.
It was interesting because, him being Strahd, right?
Yeah.
And Vasily, Lux never really trusted a lot of people in general.
Right.
And wasn't quick to trust anyone, not even the party at first.
No.
Really.
Yeah.
But Vasily also was I don't know, he seemed too nice. And I was like, something about this dude's just weirded me out.
He's just too helpful.
This guy's just weird. He's too nice. He's too helpful. But having it be Strahd was just insane. That it was actually just him the entire time.
I mean, everything you ever got from him was cursed or something.
Yeah. Which is wild. It ended up me with biting my own finger off.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
To remove a ring.
Because I had a ring that he had given me that was giving me buffs, but was also controlling. It was debuffing me and hurting me when he was controlling the ring. And the only way that I don't know how else I would have got it off, honestly. The only thing I could think of, because everybody else had things that they could take off, armor or drop a sword. Mine was a physical thing that I was resisting being taken off. So I just wolfed out with my weirding and just bit my finger off, which I still have. I kept my finger just in case. I'm a witch. You do witchy things.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think that the most interesting about the campaign was how just ever-present Strahd was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in one form or another, like either as Vasily when we didn't know, but even before we didn't know, he would just show up sometimes, like just randomly show up and just be all like, "Hi, how's it going? I could kill you right now, but I'm not going to because it's not fun for me."
You're my newest plaything.
Yeah, and it was just weird because like most of the time when you see a big bad, they're like this unattainable thing that they're like far away.
Yeah,
and you don't really deal with them until you get big enough to deal with them.
They're on the cover of the book, but you don't see them until.
Or if it's like a like a criminal warlord, you don't have access to because like they're shrouded in secrecy or covered by guards, or if it's a king, you don't have the resources to have court with or something like that. You don't see the big bads, or they're like omnipresent, like an evil god or something like that. You don't see the bad. Whereas Strahd was just always there.
Yeah.
And could always be there, especially if you just said his name, he could just show up or know exactly where you are and what you're doing. I think that was probably the most interesting thing.
It was my favorite
about
part
the module
of Strahd.
Was just how he was just always there. Like he's just there.
Yeah.
But not to leave the idea of the switching over to the new rules just yet, because the last thing that I had to cover that, which was during a lot of this, a lot of people said we're not playing the new rules because we have a long-standing campaign. We're going to stick with the 2014 rules until we finish this campaign, and then maybe as a group we'll look at transitioning over to new rules.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense if that's your play group and that's what you want to do and that's what you're interested in. Do you regret not doing that? Do you regret switching over to the new system? And like, would you think it would have been better if we would have stayed with the 2014 and just kept on trucking the way we were going, not worry about balance or new stuff?
Legitimately, really interesting.
Because I know a lot of people might be in the same boat even now. I know a lot of people were in the same boat then, and a lot of people didn't do it because they were afraid that it was going to negatively affect their campaign. And I don't think it did us. Like, I don't feel like it was a negative thing to switch over. I think there was just a little bit of growing pains in there where, like, maybe you said it was too easy and then it was a little bit hard and then it felt a little bit hard for us, but obviously by design.
I do think if you're in the middle of running this game and you're the GM, it is significantly easier if you just let it be, if you just stick to your 2014 rules. The tinge of bias I feel like I'm going to have is that at the end of the day, I still, unlike Richard, prefer a lot of the 2014 rules to the 2014 variant. But with the asterisk of my favorite parts of the 2024 version were stuff we were homebrewing already anyway. So things that they made better, we were already doing.
Yeah.
And then other things, like, okay, well, now I have a new headache of trying to memorize all these weapon masteries and stuff, which are fun. Weapon masteries are really cool. But it totally changes the balance of the pre-built encounters. And if you want to be able to just open up your book and run a module, which that's like the brilliance of a module, at least in theory, or even the random encounter tables or stuff like that, those are all balanced for a certain set of rules that have now been altered. So if you're not wanting to just change things on the fly or put more prep into an advance, then I would suggest maybe just sticking with the 2014. Do I regret it? No.
I was going to say, do you regret it?
Do I regret it? No. Because it meant we got to experience that, and I got to see what the power difference was and what the scale, the growing pains would be and stuff like that. If we hadn't have switched over, we still to this day probably wouldn't have played with the 2024 rules. I don't know when we would have done that.
Yeah.
And then now, look, we're already saying goodbye D&D, hello Daggerheart.
Yeah.
So would we ever?
Yeah, would we ever? Yeah, because I don't know when we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons again.
Yeah.
Right now, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
Because everything on the horizon is Daggerheart related.
So no, I don't regret it at all. If you're considering swapping over mid-campaign, keep considering. It's definitely some growing pains there for sure. If you want to swap over, your players are going to be very strong. And if you're going to transit, not every monster has a 1-to-1, right? Like equivalent. So it gets a little funky, especially a lot of the named NPCs, which are your biggest battles.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm glad that I got to play test the Witch.
Your Witch was awesome
before we stopped playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Because I love the Witch as a class.
Our final combat, our 9-hour combat, essentially.
Oh man.
Richard rolled like 3 dice.
I was doing all kinds of weird supporty stuff.
Yeah.
Barely attacking at all. Like I had heroic inspiration for a while, just because I wasn't using it, because the things that I was doing wasn't requiring me to hit anybody really, so to speak. It was required me like juggling curses.
But was that
and doing like kind of like passive damage?
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of passive damage and doing a lot of passive effects.
Was that less fun?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I enjoyed the last fight just with what I was doing, because I felt more. It was a very different play style than what I was doing before, because like at that point I was a little bit more wicked than I had ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
So my cursing and all those like spike curses and everything like that were more about just like making it difficult for the enemy to do things, or hurting the enemy for doing very specific things. So it was a different type of play style, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, using my higher level spells to do stuff like that instead of just turning into a tank and just smacking something over and over again, which I could have done. I probably wouldn't have done as much if I had just switched to an off tank rather than being a support kind of role that I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked it a lot. I guess that was another question too. One of the final questions was having a playtest in a game for so long. Was that difficult as a game master, trying to balance around me having a character that's not official, but pretty much done. Like, it's purchasable right now. You can get it from World's Beyond Number. I think it's like $10, right?
Like $5-10.
Is it $5 or $10? If you're interested at all in like witches or that world in general, I think it's worth the money. It's a really fun class to play, even if you do have to kind of like tone it back just a little bit. I think it's a lot of fun to play. But as a game master, having a playtest / like non-official character for such a long time, like, was that difficult to deal with?
I will preface this with, I loved Lux. I absolutely loved Lux. That was such a cool character. Not only the way you portrayed her and roleplay and everything else, but the what's the word before? Player archetype, the character archetype, like the role you filled that I didn't know needed filled with this witch was awesome. Like, I wish this was official, because it is such a unique spellcaster, where a sorcerer and a wizard and warlocks have so much overlap. I almost feel like the witch stands the farthest apart from the other three, yet still 100% being a full caster. The difficulty came from me not wanting to overreact too quickly and make your character not fun to play. I think our tuning of your curse duration was perfect-ish. I say perfect-ish. I think we were on the right track. Maybe like we could sit down and like
really hash out
the exact terminology.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple fights where we're like, well, does it end now or next round? Or, it got a little weird. But overall, the whole like you have a round of it working before it goes away, I think did work significantly better than a minute.
Yeah.
Because that just totally shuts down some fights. And I was hoping that increasing how many times you could do your curses would help you feel better about it. That was the main. I didn't want to take away your fun.
I actually do think it felt better too, because when it was like when things lasted a very long time, it kind of felt like, well, the utility's there. Why do another curse?
Right.
Just you always use this curse that gives everybody advantage because it's Fairy Fire,
and it's there for a whole minute.
Why would you not just Fairy Fire for free as a reaction, right? And then just have Fairy Fire on the bad guy for like the entire fight. Yeah. Why would you do any other curse? Whereas when it only lasts for like a round, the other curses started to look good. Yeah. And like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to do this. Or maybe I would rather do something like Leaden Shoes to like slow something down. Or maybe I would rather do abilities. Something like, restrict casting with muzzle,
Something like Leaden. Yeah, exactly. I think this is definitely, I think we went about it a very good way. If anything, I would maybe even consider giving you even more cast of them, because having something like Leaden Shoes restricting your enemy's movement to basically nothing is really cool for one turn.
Yes.
Anything past that, the GM is like, well, man, dang.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
And you could do it again,
Yeah.
But now you are using your, technically limited curse slots and stuff like that, versus you could maybe give everyone advantage on attacking with someone for a round.
Yeah. Or poison condition.
Yes, right. Oh my gosh, that like ruined me on one round of the final combat where I had Rahadin was in the fight, and all of my attacks, he's making 3 attacks and all of them are at disadvantage. I think I missed every single one of them. And man, it's brutal.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. So I guess my last question is again about what's in module and what's not, and that would be the finale of the game, because obviously we beat Strahd, and the twist at the end, the M. Night Shyamalan that you threw at us, was that the world persists, and there's a power vacuum, and somebody has to replace Strahd. Is that real? And that's in the module.
The module, I believe. Oh my god, it's the point where this game has existed in my mind for 2.5 years. So what's real and what's not? If I'm remembering correctly, the module ends. You guys beat Strahd. You leave. And then Strahd comes back and the world resets so that the next adventuring party can sit down at my table and I can run the game
again. Yeah.
Because everything resets.
Yeah.
Because it's the Curse of Strahd. This is eternity. Having the ring for you to trap his soul and release him, and a power vacuum that needs filled for that to happen and stuff like that. That's all me and Reddit.
I liked it. I thought that was a really cool ending.
Yes.
And like to the story.
I had one more option if you guys had pushed. And that would be, this is going to sound really stupid. This is really crazy. This would have required another session. I don't think we had enough time. Or we would have went really late. You would have had time to, let's say none of you wanted to do it. There's no one that needs to fill this vacuum.
Yeah, basically the way it came down to was one of us had to replace Strahd.
Yes. Someone had to be imprisoned here.
Yeah, imprisoned in the land.
As the ruler of Barovia.
Yeah.
Take the right,
to do with what you need to do.
Yes.
Like choices be made, whether they be good for good or bad.
Yep. The only stipulation as that person had to be aligned evil, which only left a couple party members as options. Oh, they could have been, an NPC or something like that. We'll get to who it ended up being in a second. But one of the possibilities I had was that no one would do it. I'm planning, I'm ready for anything. There's always a possibility no one would do it. What I didn't know is that, multiple of you would fight over who would do it. Like literally conversations at the table. But if no one would do it, there would have been another way. And that is to break the curse with Vol, the vampire, like dark power. And that would involve going to the Amber Temple and performing a ceremony essentially to bring him out of like a aspect of him essentially. And you would have to fight Vol. And if you were able to defeat him, you could just end the curse. And this land, this domain of dread would just cease. And everyone could leave and just move on, live, etc., etc. Would have been a whole thing. Yeah. Extremely difficult boss battle. I would have had countdown timers out the butt. And it would have been significantly tougher than the fight with Strahd. Decent chance everybody dies. And I would have let you guys know that out of game going into it. If this is the choice you want to do, this could all be for nothing. And then the game, as module says, resets. Literally, it would have just, like you guys had never been there, basically.
Yeah.
But had you guys done it, I would have had this gets really dumb. I would have essentially, after so many rounds, if you guys were still up and were looking like there was a chance you could win, I would have given basically like there was options for checks to be made and stuff. Skip ahead a little bit. There's a chance one of you could have played Strahd, who could have come in to help defeat Vol. And then I would have been like, here's your stop lock. And there's all like this whole thing, right? But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Instead, while a couple players were arguing over who should be in charge.
Basically what it came down to was there were two people that wanted to be in charge, but we did not want to give people.
No one else wanted them to be in charge
because we were worried that it was going to end up in another bad situation.
Like genuinely evil
characters taking over Barovia, which seemed like a poor choice.
Right. Yeah. But since it had to be someone evil, it was hands are tied sort of thing. Then the cleric, Hootsfur, made a choice I didn't see coming. And that was he realized that if he became evil, he would be a contender. And what would be more evil than murdering someone who had spent their whole lives pursued by the devil and just kill them in cold blood while they were so recently freed to live out a happy and full life for the first time ever. So he invited his friend Irina over for a nice, pleasant, I'm so sorry, I'm going to kill you now. Wait, what? Dead. It was more words than that, but very sad moment for, I think, the player and, anyone paying attention. Ended up in the two players arguing, literally looking over like, wait, what? Because they missed the whole exchange. And then the ceremony being performed, and then Hootsfur rising to power. I am ancient, I am the land.
Yeah. Which, like I said, felt like kind of like a fitting with like the whole, this is the Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
But then the curse just moving on to the next. And then that kind of unknown with like, okay, well, what's going to happen to the world now and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt kind of like rounded and finished. So I was very satisfied with the ending.
And that was one of those things, especially after such a long session. I don't know how this is going to go. I didn't know who was going to be in charge. I didn't know if you guys were going to try to, fight. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's TTRPGs, though. That's
TTRPGs,
like how it goes. And I think that's my favorite part of games like this. I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a good time. It was a fun module. I'm glad we finished it. I'm glad we saw it through to the end, and I'm glad we got the ending that we did.
I think that's the thing is at the end of the day, that's your ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was the ending of our story,
which is going to be nothing like anybody else's.
So different than other people's. Yeah.
Yeah. I guarantee you ain't nobody else out there going to murder Irina at the end of this thing.
Maybe that's a common thing.
Yeah,
I need a pie chart of how many people killed Irina.
We need to figure out if anybody else at all killed Irina, let alone how many people killed Irina.
Oh God. I think about it too. Cause these characters are like, I feel like I have personal attachment to some of them, like names on paper essentially, but characters we've portrayed and like interacted with on like a one-to-one and group scenario sort of thing, like role-playing all these people. And Tyler, am sad that Irina died.
Yeah.
And not just died, but like was saved from this terrible this whole situation just to die at her friend's hand for the greater good, you could say, but man, sucks.
So rough. Still rough.
So what was your least favorite part? What would you, Richard, have changed?
My least favorite part?
Yeah. What irked you? Because obviously I am not infallible. I am not a perfect GM. This was the longest campaign I had ever run. There are lots of things I changed from the module. There are things lots of people changed differently that I changed. What could have been done better?
That's the thing. I'm trying to think of like parts of the game where I didn't have fun or that I didn't like or didn't like the outcome of. And there were none.
Was it too long? Was the game too short?
It wasn't too long. It wasn't too long and it wasn't too short. It lasted as long as it needed to last is basically how I would describe it.
Okay.
There was nothing that I can think of that felt bad. Like nothing really felt bad other than like, just that feeling of like helplessness, I guess.
Sure.
Which is part of the module, that's just part of being in the world, not necessarily the world being bad or like the experience being bad.
Right.
It's just that's what the world makes you feel. Yeah. There's nothing that stands out to me as like a thing that I would change or, that maybe I would make different choices if I played it again, but I guess
it'd be super interesting. Yeah, I know, like, our lives do not allow it.
Oh,
maybe
God.
in like a retirement home one day.
It'd be so hard to play
I would
Strahd
love
again.
to go back,
which is hilarious because then
it.
we have like friends that have legitimately played this module like so many times, like 6 or 7 times, which is insane. We played it once and we're all like, "Oh boy,
it's been so long." Like, we were different people when this game started.
No, it really were. And so no, I don't think there's anything I would change.
Interesting.
I think it was great.
I expect you to come in here and be like, "All right, man, I didn't want to tell you this
I have
because
a list of things that you did wrong.
You've been, I didn't want to change the way you were running things, but, whoo, you run this again." I'm just gonna send you this Google spreadsheet.
No, I wouldn't change anything.
Interesting.
It was good.
Well, all of you out there, let us know what you change about this podcast, or if you've played Curse of Strahd, how did it go for you? What was your ending? Did you enjoy playing it? Do you hate Curse of Strahd?
Yeah.
Just on a personal level, do you like Strahd? Do you hate him? Some people really like side with the guy, and I didn't like. He's
him.
A likable guy.
He's mean.
He's a mean but likable guy.
He's a mean guy.
I'm sad to let him go. I'm glad you guys gave him the ending he got, as upset about it as he was.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Same.
Yeah. God. I know we're trying to outro, but like, it really does feel like we've been in this world for so long. Like, a part of our like routine.
Oh yeah, part of our routine is
gone. It's just cast.
Never gonna hear that music again.
Yeah, like man, what a game. Well, time to play Daggerheart.
Time for Daggerheart.
But
no more Dungeons and Dragons ever again.
Yeah. Goodbye. Hey, podcast people. If you're listening on all those podcatchers, 5 stars, super cool. YouTube, like and subscribe if you don't mind. Positive affirmations and comments help keep those lanterns back there lit. But for now, everybody, I've been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we've been True Strike. See ya.
Goodbye.
Blah, blah, blah. Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Threads, Blue Sky, or Instagram. New episodes released every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike.